Well, a very good morning to you. It's Wednesday the 23rd of February 2022. If there's one thing we Brits like to talk about, it's the weather. But I have to say that in the last few days we really have had some atrocious weather in the UK. We've had some storms which has brought lots of wind and rain to many parts of the country. And they have caused quite a lot of damage and flooding. So my heart goes out to all those people whose homes and businesses really have been very badly affected. But there is a window of opportunity now for us to take the swamp duck out. The weather forecast for the next few days is quite reasonable. So I'm going to take Steve with me for a couple of days, and we're going to take the swamp duck out on the Ashby Canal. So I'm just going to pick him up now. As you can see, there's quite brilliant sunshine, so it is difficult to film. It's just after 9 o'clock and I've picked Steve up.
Good morning.
And we're just on the M1, and then we're going to carry on down to the A42 off to Sutton Cheney.
I had a boat and oceans to cross, then I would sail them. Since I have this promise to keep.
So it's 25 past 11, and so far we've just brought the boat down to the wharf, and then the steering went. So I guess there's something wrong with the steering cable. It's either come away or it's broken. So I've had to call out the River Canal Rescue. River Canal Rescue normally service the engine anyway. It's had 3 services with them. And the cabling and all of the cabling is part of the service. So I thought it was best to just ring them, and they answered straight away, and they're sending an engineer, and he should be here in about half an hour, and we'll see how we get on from there. The situation is that yesterday we took the boat out, but we only got as far as taking it down to the wharf, where I wanted to get some water and just unload the car and put things onto the boat. But as I'm turning into the wharf, I could feel that there was no steering. So to cut a very long story short, the cable, the steering cable broke. So I had to ring the River Canal Rescue, who came within about an hour, and then spent about 2 hours trying to remove the cable. It was quite difficult because they're working in such a cramped space, but eventually they managed to get that out and discovered that the cable was in fact broken. It has obviously been wearing away over a period of time. We reckon that it was probably the original cable, so it has lasted some 48 years, so that's done quite well. It's very windy here today, so I do apologise about the wind noise, but I need to film this outside. This is the problem that we had yesterday. This is the cable, steering cable, and if I just pull that very carefully, you'll see the problem, i.e. it has snapped. It's obviously been worn for quite some time, and yesterday was the day it gave up the ghost. So it's quite a chunky cable, this, so all of this has to be replaced. So what is going to happen now is next week they were coming to collect the engine for its annual service. So at the same time, they're going to take the old cable away and take it to the engineer so that they can match it and make a new cable. And then when the engine comes back, they will fit the cable at the same time. So I'm going to be without the swamp duck for a few days. During that time, I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm going to try and make it easier to relocate the new cable by making sure there's a clear pathway for it. One of the difficulties in putting the new cable in is that the space that the old one came out of is quite difficult to get to and quite cramped. So I'm going to put some tubing in so that the new cable can just simply be threaded through it. And also, when we got to the back of the wheel yesterday, we discovered that the wire in there needs a good tidy up, so that's something else I'm going to do. And also there's a fair amount of cleaning to do because the mechanism at the back of the wheel was very highly covered in loads and loads of thick black grease. So I'm going to clean that out and I'm going to re-grease it with some new grease so that it's all ready for when the new cable comes back. So that's the plan. There are various pieces from the steering system that I have brought back from the boat from yesterday, which either need cleaning up or replacing. The first one is this here, this grommet, the steering grommet. The cable just comes through there, and as it feeds into the boat, the steering rod actually at that point, and this just prevents water from going into the boat. It's made of rubber. It could do with a good clean. I might see if I can get replacement for that. Then there are these 3 bolts, and this was the problem that we had yesterday in getting the cable out, because we needed to undo these 3 bolts, and the ends of them have been well and truly chewed over the years, and it took 3 of us to get those undone. So I'm going to try and replace those. Those are 6mm. So I'm going to have a trip down to Screwfix or somewhere like that and see if I can get those replaced. They feed through here, which is the back of the helm. The helm, as you can see, is in a right state with some horrible thick old grease in it. So I'm going to clean that off, and I've purchased some new grease, some marine grease, which I'm going to use when it's all put back together. And this is the mechanism that goes inside that. It's quite a simple thing really, that the cable just slots into these grooves here, and as the wheel turns then that moves the cable, and there's a gear mechanism there which corresponds to the gear on the other part of the helm, which is still attached to the boat and the steering wheel. So that needs to be cleaned. Then there's just this little bit here which goes at the end of the steering rod, which I'll give that a good clean as well. May not need that, it depends what they replace the system with. I have looked online and I could replace the entire steering cable and replace it with a new steering wheel and a new helm, and the cost of that would be between £135 and £200 depending where you get it from, but I've seen one at around £135. But that would mean losing my traditional steering wheel on the boat, the wooden one, which I really would like to try and keep if possible. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to degrease these, clean them up, and then I'm going to see if I can get some of those. I've wiped off as much of the grease as I can with some paper towels and some cloth, and I've now put them in a bucket with some very high grade detergent. This is powerful stuff which we used to use when I had a cafe, and we used it for degreasing things like the deep fat fryer, so it's quite a powerful detergent. So we just put that in the bucket and then we mix it with some boiling hot water and just let it soak for a while and see what the results will be. You can tell by the colour of the water that the detergent is reacting, so hopefully it will clean all that mess off. I'll give it 10 minutes and then take them out. So this is the result of 10 minutes being soaked in sodium hydroxide. Amazing. Just a bit of surface stuff now just to finish that off and polish it up, I think, just to make it look even better. You can see the grooves quite clearly now. And the other parts still got just a little bit of residue in these indents here, but I can poke those out, I think. It's even taking the paint off. It's really powerful stuff, that. After an hour or so's hard graft, you can see that this helm mechanism is looking a whole lot shinier and cleaner, and I've got rid of all that thick, nasty, horrible grease. The grease actually wasn't doing any good at all because it had gone past the stage where it was of any use, and it had just become really sticky and in some place encrusted, so it was really not doing anything at all to help the mechanism. I polished it up with a thin layer of a bit of oil. So I've got some grease on the way, so that can be re-greased when it gets put back on the boat. It just needs the cable putting around the edge here and attaching, and that should be okay. What do you think, Michael? Okay? Rubbish.
There's a new day that will come again tomorrow. There's a new day to wash away the pain. There's a new day to take.
Well, a very good morning to you. It's Saturday the 26th of February 2022. And I've come over to the Swamp Duck today, having collected quite a few materials to help me with my task of designing a clear route for the new steering cable so that we can connect it efficiently and quickly to the boat. I do have a generator working at the moment, as you can hear. That's because I've got a few power tools that are charging up in order to do this job, so I do apologise for that. Now, in order to get to the helm, which is the mechanism behind the wheel here, we first of all have to take this surround off, and then we have to pull this out of the way, and then there are some screws here that we had to undo. One there, 3 along there and 2 at the side, which at the time it struck me as being a little bit inefficient, because it's very difficult to hold all this together while you're working. So what I intend to do first of all is to put a couple of hinges in here, so that instead of that dropping out, it will pull forward and if I put some chains on the corners, it will restrict how far it will fall. So that will help me to be able to work behind here without having to hold it all together at the same time. So that's the first job of today, is to put a couple of hinges, one there and one there. But of course none of that is going to happen without, first of all, a cup of tea. So I think a hinge just about here would do the trick. So I'm just going to make some marks with the bradawl. Just do one and I can get it in the right place. Okay, so that's the first one done, so I'm just going to drill some pilots there and get all the other 3 screws in. So that's hinge number 1, and then I'm going to put one over here. I now need to rig up a chain affair so that it doesn't drop down completely. I need to just remove this screw which is keeping this surround in place, and then that will enable the dash here to lift up, and then this will be able to drop down. This part, this frame, is removed. And this can be lifted up to reveal what is a spaghetti of wires. Now I've just been able to add this chain which will keep the dash out of the way whilst I work on this part. So I've got the chain in and that's working well there, and that's actually resting there on the throttle control as well. So that's fairly substantial, so that makes it very easy to get to the second part of the helm. Now this is in just as bad a state as the part that I took home and cleaned. However, I cannot do anything to take this home because we found it very difficult to remove. We tried to remove the wheel but we were unsuccessful, so that's going to have to be cleaned as best I can in situ. So that's one job that I have to do. I also have to check that the new bolts that I have purchased fit in the bolt holes here, hopefully, and then that's one major headache solved. And then as you can see, I need to tidy up this wiring. It did get slightly damaged when we were removing all of this, and the horn here needs to be a little bit more securely located than it is at the moment. This is really pleasing as these bolts really do fit. So I'm very happy that I've been able to replace those. That will save an enormous amount of struggle. So my next job is to get this cleaned out, I think. Otherwise we're all going to get in a bit of a mess. I'm just dabbing on some white spirit thinner to get this horrible grease out. That is working. It's just not as quick as dipping it in the bucket of cleaner. The thicker stuff I just scraped it out on the end of a knife, but it is coming clean, so I'm happy with that. It's going to take me a little while to do it, but we'll get it clean. So that's the other half of the helm cleaned as best I can. That's not bad actually. So doing that with the thinner did work. That's pretty good. Having all cleaned makes it so much easier to put it all back together again. So this is the piece that the cable threads around. It comes up here. No, sorry, it comes up here around, and the excess comes out there. So that bit goes in there. And this cog, this big cog, is attached to the small cog. So these little bolts go back in. So let me see if I can just demonstrate this to you. So if I turn the wheel, it turns the small cog, which in turn turns the large cog, which is attached via this channel here to the cable. So the cable will then thread through either in or out, and that basically will either lengthen the cable or shorten the cable, and it's that makes the engine turn left and right. I have bought some of this Liqui Moly, which is a waterproof grease for marine use, and it can stand very low temperatures, which is why it's suitable for marine use, minus 30. This can be applied when the cable comes back. So I'm just going to fit the back onto this and put the new bolts in and keep it all together, and then we know where it is. So the next task will be to sort this out so that when it all goes back, it all fits nice and flush and it doesn't disturb anything. So this is the helm all put back together, so I can't do any more to that now, just wait for the cable to come back. I think before all this gets closed up completely, I'm going to put a coat of paint in here, because I think that would help to make it look a bit smarter and would preserve the wood.
Away your sorrow and the old ways get washed out by the rain. Darling, you've got to keep holding on through the night, 'cause I promise you this: if you try to get some sleep, if you give up the fight, if only just for a bit.
The next part of my mission today is to make the passageway for the rod, which comes from here and goes through this grommet and then comes out here to the side of the grommet, and then it feeds through to the underside of this ridge on the boat. And once it's there, all this cabling and pipework has been attached to it with the cable ties. The problem is, and it was the other day when it broke down, is that when it gets to this point, it has to go through a minute opening, and it's a big cable, so that's going to take some getting through there. So what I intended to do was to cut this away here and pass a tube through there, a plastic tube, because it has to go through this part here underneath, and it comes out the other side of this partition into the toilet area. So I'm going to put a plastic tube through, so it will be a matter of just feeding the cable through the tube. That's the plan. So in order to do that, the first thing I have to do is I need to cut away a section here large enough to get a pipe through. So it's a bit of drilling and a bit of keyhole surgery. The tube that I've bought, it's obviously far too long at the moment. It goes all the way out of the boat, so it needs to be so that it goes to about here, because I can then support it with a bracket from this piece of wood here, so the cable can be fed in from that point. So the pipe is all tied in place now, and I've used it to support all the other conduits and the wiring. A flexi hose there. All of those contain various wires. I managed to get everything done today that I intended to do. So I've sorted out the console, and I've sorted out the route for the new cabling. So I can't really do anything else now until the River Canal Rescue come next Thursday to take the engine away and take the broken cable.
There's a new day to leave behind your troubles. There's a new day, and it will set you free. There's a new day to get you through your struggles. I will always think of you and me. Darling, you've got to keep holding on through the night, because
I hope you enjoyed that video. If you haven't yet subscribed, then please press the subscription button on the bottom right hand corner of the screen on your mobile phone or tablet, which is displayed throughout my videos. And please press the bell icon on the home page of the channel, and you'll be notified by YouTube each time I upload a new video. Please give us a thumbs up and make any comments below, as I do enjoy reading them, and I will respond to each and every one of them. So thank you very much for watching. Do take care.
I'm putting on a show for the world to see.